Discover the brain-first approach to recovery with Emergo Academy and join our Recovery Club. Surround yourself with a supportive community free of guilt and shame and gain access to coaches and recovery experts with lived experience. Dave and Susan Kenney, co-founders of Emergo Academy, have developed these methodologies over the last 15 years. And as a member of the Recovery Club, you get exclusive access and resources to achieve your recovery goals and relieve the suffering. Stay up to date with live group meetings, Emergo TV updates, and 24/7 access to the private Recovery Club. Visit emergoacademy.com and join the Recovery Club today.
Well, that's pretty awesome, huh?
Well, here we are on location.
Well, different location.
Different location.
We are on the road. The show, the Emergo TV has hit the road today. We are in Toronto, Canada.
And the beauty of this is the room right here.
Oh, that's right.
That many, many years ago, we actually put everything together for actualized recovery. We had been running a program, residential program for a long time. And this is the actual room, the room that we're in today. We had papers all over, we had whiteboards, we wrote down everything that we did in the program, and we called it and named it Actualized Recovery.
Right there on that whiteboard, that's where the name came from. And speaking of names, I'm Dave Kenney, one of the co-founders of Emergo Academy.
And I am Susan Kenney, the other co-founder.
There's two co-founders.
That's why it's co.
That's right, it's us. All right, so welcome to Emergo TV, our wonderful live streaming podcast here and TV show. Today, we always take questions live, and we have some questions again submitted early from some people, and our wonderful producer, great Nate Kelly, is going to put those up here in a minute. But we've changed the format a little bit today because we're in the room where this was founded. We just got inspired today. So the first half of our show today, we are going to talk about actualized recovery, what you will find in the book, and why it's of interest or not, but hopefully of interest to you, and the value that the book brings, and even the methodology of actualized recovery, which is the core piece of the whole book. And there it is. I told you Nate was good.
It's magic.
It's unbelievable. There it is. Actualized recovery. It's not about 12 steps. Recovery is a brain thing. And we're going to dive in and take a look at that a little bit. Oh, and I like the little badge. You want to talk about the badge?
Heck yeah. So we were quite blown away on the release date, which was February 29th. We went bestseller in 3 countries, Australia, Canada, and the US, in 5 different categories. So incredibly humbling.
So actualized recovery, the book, first of all, let's take a look at the 2 words. We're big on words. We're big on energy. We're big on the brain and messaging, and some people call that neuro-linguistic programming as well. So it's really important. Actualize, the definition of actualize means to make it real. So it's not a theory. This is a real.
To bring it into actuality, to bring it to life.
And recovery is focusing on the solution, not the problem. And we almost leaned into well-being and thriving. We were there for a while and debating. We wanted recovery because it talks more specifically about overcoming a challenge, overcoming a problem. And the word recovery, actually, when you look at the definition, it's a general definition. It means to get back something you've lost.
Right. To recover, to bring back.
Financial recovery.
Right.
Physical recovery from a broken bone.
Yeah.
Recovery, spiritual and self-recovery, and financial recovery from an addiction.
Traumas, the 4 traumas. So recovery from chemical traumas, from emotional traumas, from mental traumas, from physical traumas.
So the book, as we wrote the book, ended up, and you had this brilliant thing. We're writing the book. We laid out the chapters, and we both set to certain chapters. Then we give them to each other, and we're working on it. And Susan said, "I'm starting to see a theme." Mm-hmm. And the first half, and it's almost by page number, by accident or by brilliance, I'm not sure which, probably more accident, is about the brain. And the second half is the kind of the how-to. It's our methodology. How do you apply this? So the first half is more theory and understanding, and the second part is more practical. And we call those two neuroarchitecture is the first section, or part 1 of the book, and recovery blueprint is part 2 of the book. So let's dive right into neuroarchitecture. And now there's 4 chapters here. The first chapter is a Latin word, means lector et emergo. Lector et emergo is a Latin phrase. It means to struggle. It actually means I struggle and I emerge. Well, welcome to recovery from anything. Overeating and food, gambling, any substance abuse or use issue. By the way, we use substance use disorder and addictions interchangeably. And so actualized recovery, lector et emergo, chapter 1 is about I struggle and I emerge. And we're all about that. We're all about the comeback story. My favorite movies. Mm-hmm. So actualized recovery is really a book of hope, and it's a book of promise, and it's a blueprint and a guide moving forward.
And it's all, the first part is understanding that brain drives behavior, and that we share enough of the neuroscience without being too heavy. So it's an easy read for anyone, really truly at any level. And whether you are the person that is struggling and wanting to recover, whether you are family or friends, whether you're a professional or somebody interested in being in the field of recovery, this is a book for absolutely anybody. We wanted this to be an introduction into the methodology, which is brain first recovery.
Nate, if you put up the other graphic of the actualized recovery, actually what we're talking about, it'll be great, because it is a brain first approach. And we talk about that on the cover, this being a brain thing. Recovery is a brain thing. And there's 5 other principles. You'll see the brain in the middle. And we're going to talk about this in the second half of our presentation and talk today about physiology, about the body, and how physiology drives psychology. And then we're going to talk about various psychology methods. And then we talk about
spirit, and that's different for every person. That's defining what drives you, what's your reason for getting up in the morning, what are you drawn to, what is unique to you, what are your strengths.
And connections, which is all the people around you and who you choose to be around and not around. So this is also what you consume, not just in drinking, eating, or anything else, in relationships. And the last one?
Lifestyle. You got to tie it all together with a bow of lifestyle. What does your life look like? What do you do day to day, moment to moment? How do you bring this to life?
Thanks, Nate. So chapter 2 is titled The Untold Truth. Mm-hmm. And what we dive into, well, let me tell you a little story. Imagine for a minute that you're booking, you've either just come back, and maybe you have just come back from a stellar trip. Maybe you've got one planned. We've got a family member who's planning a wonderful trip to a beach location in Mexico. She's really excited about this. It's an amazing trip. She got it booked for a while. So let's say you've got a trip, and the morning of the trip, you're packed, you're ready, traffic's light, you get to the airport early. It's like, wow, this is a good day. And no lines. And you go through the lines, and you actually get an upgrade to the front of the plane. Like, okay, this is great. And with that, you zip through security. Okay, this is a stellar day. And there's no lines for you because you got bumped up and you go through the airplane. And because of that airport,
you're not going through the airplane.
True, you get through the airport. Thank you. And you get there, maybe you get a cup of tea or something, and you're there early at your gate. So you wander over to the window and you're just kind of looking out, and you look down and you see your plane. And it's a beautiful silver plane. It's called a DC-3, and it was made in 1935. And I'm talking this weekend. You go to the airport today and you look out the window in your plane, is made in 1935 as a DC-3 chrome, beautiful.
Nothing upgraded.
No upgrades. It's been well maintained.
Mm-hmm.
No aerospace updates, no computer updates.
There are no TVs.
No TVs. Well, even navigation is old school navigation. I'm talking no computers on board, twin prop, 21 passenger. You got upgraded to the front of a 21 passenger plane. And now you go over and say, am I really on this flight? Yep, that's your plane. Now you have a choice. Well, in our life, whether it's planes, whether it's phones, whether it's our cars, maybe it's surgical procedures for a cardiac problem, for a heart problem. We expect technology, we expect sciences, we expect all of those things to be embraced and to move forward. I want to share that the 12-step program was also created in 1935. 1940, they wrote the 12 steps and put it in the big book. They nicknamed it the AA book. And they did a marvelous job. They did an absolutely marvelous job.
There was a need. They fulfilled a need. They created something that needed, people truly, truly needed, families needed.
The issue, though, since that time, since 1935, the DC-3 was an absolute fabulous airplane. But we expect air traffic to adopt all of the new technology, all the sciences, and be state of the art. Why can't our recovery be state of the art? And that's what actualized recovery is. We have adopted neuroscience, and we've learned so much. Behavioral science,
social sciences, nutritional sciences, and the list goes on. Right?
So
there's been so much advancement.
The other thing is the brain is addictions is defined. First of all, there's no one definition. There is no one definition in the world about an addiction. It is a brain disease, which is a medical model. It's a brain disorder, which is more psychiatry and psychology model. It's in the DSM-5 as a disorder. But both of them, disease, disorder, say brain.
Right.
Well, what we've learned from the brain since 1940 is the brain is plastic. It's malleable. It changes. That's called neuroplasticity. In 1940, we did not know this.
It can rewire itself. So the patterns that you have today are absolutely changeable. You're not stuck with the brain patterns you have today.
So recovery is not about willpower. This is the next chapter. It's not about willpower. It's about brain power. And I have one, because I got to just quickly for time run through this chapter. I have one analogy for you here to help you understand this. If you've ever experienced a family member with Alzheimer's or dementia, Susan's mom had it, has passed. My mom currently has it, and it is disappearing on us. Is that the brain is decaying in its own and it's not functioning properly. Right. And the problem is not just memory disappears. My mom, her spirit disappears. Who she was, her beautiful heart and kindness is disappearing every day as her brain malfunctions, or some people may call it a broken brain. But the brain is driving her behavior in a negative way. And if that's the case, imagine if we could change the brain in a positive way. So it's not about willpower.
It's not even imagined.
Oh, well, you can. And then then chapter 4 in the first section, which is the neuroarchitecture section of the book. Chapter 4 is about brain first. So brain drives behavior. What you think, a thought, is created by the brain. Mm-hmm. That creates a feeling. That creates an action. Mm-hmm. So if the thought is a stressful thought and it creates a feeling of anxiety or nervousness or upsetness, emotion, the action might be to go drink some alcohol. Mm-hmm. So that's cognitive behavioral therapy. That's it in a nutshell. But what they're not picking up is that the brain is the hard drive. The thought is the software, meaning a trauma can cause the brain, or not can, it does cause the brain to go in an imbalanced state.
Dysfunction state.
And that's like a virus on your computer, your hard drive. It doesn't matter what software you put on it, the hard drive isn't going to work. When you upgrade your hard drive, your computer will work faster and work better. So that's the first 4 chapters of section 1 of actualized recovery, called the neuroarchitecture. When we come back from the break, we're going to dive into recovery blueprint.
Discover the brain-first approach to recovery with Emergo Academy and join our recovery club. Surround yourself with a supportive community free of guilt and shame and gain access to coaches and recovery experts with lived experience. Dave and Susan Kenney, co-founders of Emergo Academy, have developed these methodologies over the last 15 years. And as a member of the Recovery Club, you get exclusive access and resources to achieve your recovery goals and relieve the suffering. Stay up to date with live group meetings, Emergo TV updates, and 24/7 access to the private Recovery Club. Visit emergoacademy.com and join the Recovery Club today.
Okay, welcome back to Emergo TV. My name is Dave Kenney. If you just joined us.
After that commercial break, I'm Susan Kenney.
Nate made a great commercial for us. And we're here with Emergo TV, and that's part of Emergo Academy. We are on live traveling today. We happen to be outside of our home area, and we're in Toronto, Canada right now, broadcasting to you live, and we are committed to be with you no matter where we travel, no matter where we go. And you know this. Of course,
have microphone, have laptop.
No, and I'm thinking in a I don't know how many, like 6 weeks, we'll be broadcasting from Austin, Texas, too.
Oh, that's right. We're headed.
Yeah, see, I'm with you. I'm on top. Yeah. All right. So we've covered the first part of Actualized Recovery, the book. And the second, by the way, if you're watching, you want to type in any questions about this or about recovery.
Nate will see them and he will shoot them to us.
And Nate, I closed the chat tonight, so you gotta feed them to us as you see them come in. So section 2 is the recovery blueprint. So this is where we put the theory into action. Mm-hmm. And Nate, if you'd show those 5 bubbles, the principles, would be great. But chapter 5 is about chaos, turning chaos into thriving. How do we know this?
How do we know what?
That this is what we taught in our recovery program for 12 years. 2,000 people came to us in a state of chaos, and the goal was happiness, thriving, well-being. And there's actualized recovery on the screen. The brain first, it's why it's front and center, and every one of those 5 principles we view through the brain. How does physiology impact the brain, vice versa?
Well, I want to back up. Chaos to thriving.
Yeah, let's go.
The reason that the recovery blueprint works is that there's a methodology. It's step by step. It doesn't matter what your starting point is. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter what your end point is. It's tailored to every person and meeting them where they're at in the beginning. And all of those steps can be intermingled. You're going to learn so much about those 5 beautiful bubbles. And we do say brain first, not brain only. So we've got to look at it through the lens. And I want to use an example. There was a client that I was talking to a few weeks ago, and they have a young woman in the family, young mom in the family, and she's not doing well. She's not able to get out of bed. There's some substance. Things are really deteriorating, spiraling down. She's feeling helpless and hopeless. And the way I started coaching was, let's talk about the physical body. Like, what is she eating? What's hydration like? How is sleep? All of these things. Is she getting fresh air? Is she getting sunshine? All of those things. And for every one of them, it was a no. And so she had lots of diagnoses.
And had talking to the family about ending
Yeah,
things.
It was hopeless. It was hopeless. It was becoming helpless.
And the family then didn't know where to start to help. And your advice, looking at our methodology that's on the screen, was to start where?
Start with physiology. Because physiology, how the body is functioning, how the brain is functioning, is driving psychology in almost everybody that's struggling.
So physiology first, and that included, what did the family do? You want to tell the story? You got a text or a call like 2 days later.
Yeah. So instead of focusing on the problem, which is maybe the addiction, the fact that she is tired and not able to get out of bed, which is one of the things that I talked about, is if she keeps saying she's really exhausted, she keeps saying she's really tired. And I said, well, what if that's the truth? And it was like, it was a revelation. It was oh, wow. So if you're exhausted, there is nothing else that you can do. We've got to build up some energy. And so talk to the family about what can you do? How can you support this young woman to get her energy levels up? So that's what the coaching was focused on. 2 days later, had a text message from the family member I was working with. And the young woman had gone out with her husband and played tennis.
And come home like a totally different young woman. Totally different young woman.
Yeah.
By moving her body, and play is important.
Yeah. And had some nutrients. She was starting to get some food to the brain, which was super important and hadn't happened.
Look, things aren't fixed by playing one game of tennis, but it's the beginning, and it's also prioritizing physiology. Right. And another great example is physiology driving psychology. It's a terrible thing, but they do this in torture of people. They do sleep deprivation,
right?
And they know if they keep people awake, crazy. Right? Your psychology goes nuts when you don't get the sleep. Right. Well, that's how important sleep is for us to feel well.
Starving the brain, there is no energy, and you start having some really crazy thoughts.
So that's physiology. Let's get into psychology. And psychology, we really lean into, again, different psychology methodologies that support great brain function. Remember, we're talking brain function, not brain chemistry. We're talking about the hard drive of that. And one of the things, and this blows up one of the myths, is Viktor Frankl. We all know the book he wrote, Man's Search for Meaning, but he also...
Maybe not everybody knows it.
Man's Search for Meaning. I'm going to say
amazing book.
A great book. And one of the things he created afterwards was... After I wasn't going to get into that. It was one of the things he created was logotherapy. And logotherapy is the understanding that we have power in choice. Every human, every single human has power of choice, meaning you're not powerless. Right. The support that you're not powerless over anything, including alcohol, drugs, TV, social media, gaming, gambling, sex, doesn't matter. You're not powerless. Here's why. Logotherapy teaches us that between a stimulus and a response, there's a gap. In between a stimulus, the boss yells at you, somebody does something to you, somebody cuts you off on the highway, and your response, there's a gap. Sometimes it's
somebody invites you out for drinks or offers you a joint.
It's a nano of a second sometimes. Sometimes it's a couple days or a couple weeks in between that. But there is a gap, and in that gap is your superpower. And your superpower is your power of choice. And that's one of the myths in this world of recovery, is that you are powerless. Now, if you have been addicted to cocaine and you go to a party and do one line of cocaine, it's all over. It's done. So forget logotherapy now.
Or it's donuts or binge eating, and you've purchased the dozen donuts or whatever it is.
Because now the brain the brain's hijacked now, and that's a different conversation. But what led up to going to the party of cocaine? What led up to buying the donuts? That's the power of choice. Steps before you get there. Right. So logotherapy teaches us the difference between a stimulus and a response, and in between the two is a gap, and that is your superpower.
You are empowered.
And that is your power. So that blows up the myth. And then also in psychology, we lean heavily into positive psychology, which is a strengths-based psychology.
So that's important, because we're looking at what are you great at, not what your weaknesses are, not where you fall short.
What's the woman who did Cats, the play Cats?
Jillian.
So she was struggling in school. I want to speed the story up. Yeah. She was struggling in school as a young girl. All the teachers, oh my God. And today she would have been put on medication for ADHD kind of thing. And so the mother took her to a doctor, and they observed her through a window, put the girl in a room, and the doctor called mom over after a number of minutes.
Yeah.
And
said, there's nothing wrong with your daughter. She's a dancer. She needs to move her body. That is her gift. So the parents put her into a school for the gifted and for creative arts. And she is the choreographer for Cats. She did so many famous plays. So her life could have been totally different had she been medicated and just told to sit down, stop moving.
So Maslow and Abraham Maslow and Maslow's hierarchy of needs, one thing Maslow says is what one can be, one must be. So if you have this calling to be an artist,
right,
and you happen to work in an insurance company, okay, maybe you're doing that to keep the family going, but you must
your creative
you must
outlet?
use art if that's the thing, or music on the weekends or in the evenings.
Right.
You know, if one can be something, one must be.
One
And
must
if not, the spirit deteriorates and
Right.
falls.
And the opposite of that is depression. Creates anxiety because you know you're not living the life that matters to you.
So chapter 8, the third principle is spirit. And spirit is different than a religion. We don't talk religion. We're talking your spirit or your faith. There's another phrase that can say that, which is your belief that something bigger than you out there. And there's a bigger reason, there's a bigger purpose. And your spirit is also, it's your laugh. It's your smile.
It's what you value most. That's your spiritual self.
It is in our book, it's a values-based blueprint. And there's a couple projects we walk you through in how you can discover your values. And typically when we value things, let's just say we value health. Let's just say that for a minute. Maybe that's my number in my top 5. Maybe it's my 5th value. I value health, wellness, fitness, and yet I'm eating donuts and ice cream. So my actions don't support my values. They're not congruent. They're different. Well, that erodes things, and I become actually it becomes a dark place.
And I don't trust myself.
Yeah. If I value money, but I'm constantly living in debt, that creates a problem. And one of the ways to solve that or resolve that in a short term is then turn to a substance to numb myself.
Right.
So we talk about a values-based life, and that's part of your spirit.
Right.
The next chapter 9 is
Connections.
Yeah, chapter 9.
So when they did a study of well-being, Gallup did a study worldwide, hundreds of thousands of people, ask questions, no matter what your cultural background, no matter where you live, no matter what your income level, there was one area that everybody said was the most important to them, where they thrive, and that is deep, meaningful relationships. Your connections will get you through tough times. They will get you through hard times. They will get you through anything. So we've got to look at actual connections with people, loving connections.
And Johann Hari writes beautifully on the subject in the world of recovery, and that sobriety is not the opposite of an addiction. The opposite of addiction is connections. And I won't even get into the word sobriety, but sobriety, I will a little bit. Sobriety is a really
if you look at
somber
we love words.
word.
We love etymology, which is the study of words. We love words. And if you look at the definition of sobriety or being sober, nobody would ever want that. It means you are boring, you are dull, you're basically, nobody would want to talk to you at a party.
The truth about recovery, it's the greatest freedom you will ever experience in your life.
Right.
Recovery creates greater opportunity and greater freedom. So it's not a sober place. It is a fulfilling place. And then chapter 10, we got to go real quick
Lifestyle.
here. Lifestyle.
So bringing it all together and planning, what does your life look like? What does your most enriched life look like? And let's create a blueprint to get there.
And this is the lasting part of recovery. We don't focus on a relapse plan, again, study of words. Relapse plan means you're focusing on failure and
Right.
drinking or using again. when you focus on the solution and what you want, which is health, wellness, thriving, and you create a lifestyle plan about that, that's your beacon.
Right.
Your beacon is moving forward. And yes, you need people and support and all those things, but it's going to be focused on your lifestyle. So thanks very much again. When we come back, we're going to jump into questions. I know Nate's got a bunch of questions he's going to shoot at us. I'm looking for, I always love this part because I'm not really sure where we're going with this.
I never know what's coming in.
All right, so we'll see you shortly.
Hey there, are you enjoying this live stream? Well, I'm the one that helped Dave and Susan bring Emergo TV to life, and I could help you do the same. My name's Nate Kelly, and I'm the founder of Pod Studio, a full-service podcast production and coaching company. I took my first podcast, The Sobriety Diaries, from launch to the top 3% globally in the first 90 days, and I've created this framework to help you achieve the same. Whether you have an existing show and you're looking to kind of level things up, or you're an aspiring podcaster that wants to hit the top of the charts, I'm your guy. Head over to podcastnate.com and book a discovery call so we can talk about your goals and develop a personal plan to launch your podcast, your webcast, your live stream, your social media live event. It's all about unleashing your voice and amplifying your impact. Again, podcastnate.com, book a discovery call, and I'll see you soon.
We love Nate.
All right, we're back. I'm Dave Kenney.
I'm Susan Kenney.
We are with Emergo Academy and Emergo TV, and you just saw a fantastic promotion from Nate, Podcast Nate, and he has a great book out. I'm sorry, I don't even remember.
Podcast Revolution.
Podcast Revolution. Nate, if you got that,
Yep.
Slam that up there if you want. If you got that, if not, maybe next week we'll put it up there. There it is. Oh, there it is. That'll go. So seriously, anything. If you want coaching on podcasts, you want coaching on social media, if you want done-for-you programs, I mean, we've worked with a lot of people. Nate is so fantastic and knowledgeable and a beautiful person. And he truly wants you, and I know this because he's talked to us about his other clients. He truly wants the best for them and for them to succeed. So
To get your message out there.
All right, we keep talking about that, but it's not a podcast thing.
All right. What does a typical day look like going through recovery?
Come on. There's no typical day.
Yeah.
First of all, this is about handling emotions and maturing and adulting. First of all, it is about
taking responsibility.
Yes, it is about becoming the hero in your own life. It is about having greater freedom. With that comes greater responsibility. So you're not having people pick up the pieces for you. You're owning your decisions. You're going to make some bonehead decisions in life. I've done that once or twice. I do that every
a day,
like an hour, and that's okay. You know, we had an issue. We had an issue today with one of our senior family members, and there's an issue there. And when we raised it, they went, "Oh my God!" and they owned it, and it was the most beautiful thing. They didn't challenge us. They didn't push it back. They owned it and said, "Oh my God, how can we fix this?" And immediately began to put plans together. That's what recovery is about, is owning things in your life. You get to make choices in your life versus people telling you what to do. That can be scary for some because we've seen that in our recovery program. But embracing that creates freedom. So there's no day, but you're going to be filled. The day will be filled with laughter, tears, some anxiousness.
Now, I think actualized recovery is a different day than other programs. So actualized recovery, you're going to go through all of the things that we just talked about. You're going to answer questions about your physiology and your psychology, your spirit, your connections, and you're going to design your lifestyle. So it's pulling you forward to the life that you want.
We're big on bookending your day, which I won't get into, which is what do you do in the first hour of your day? What do you do in the last hour of your day? That's an early step in your recovery process. You design that maybe with us or one of your coaches. That's the beginning. Anyway, your recovery day it's up to you. Okay, what do we got in here, Nate? I know you got something else.
I've practiced 12-step recovery for 34 years and I still struggle with cravings most every day. Do you have any advice for me? I am so tired. That sounds exhausting. 34 years is a long time.
This is not new to us.
No.
We've heard this for years in our program.
Yeah.
In our
I work
residential
the program. I show up. I do the meetings, and although I have stayed sober, every day is a white knuckle.
We've had people with over 20 years of sobriety going to AA meetings, and have told us every morning one of the first thoughts in their head is drinking, and then they begin to use more willpower and talk, and sometimes some of their buddies to try and talk themselves down, and yet they feel like they're white knuckling it, and they get through the day and this repeats again. There actually is more hope. There is opportunity out there to live a life without your brain always creating these thoughts or cravings that you have to fight back. Here's a great example too, that if you don't want to eat French fries, this actually happened. This is a true story. I took some people to a restaurant and we ordered some food, and I said no fries. They said same thing as Dave. They came with fries. They didn't want to eat the fries. And the after the meal, the learning was this: they instinctively felt like they had to grab the fries and eat the fries. They had to say no 100 times throughout the day, 100 times throughout the day, versus saying no once and not having that in front of them. Right. So some of that is what's your environment, some of that is what's your friends, some of that is what are you focusing on and talking about. Mm-hmm. Are you talking about the past and the trauma and the last time in the ditch?
Are you talking about drinking?
Right, because then the brain is going, oh, drinking.
Right.
Here's a great thing. If you're listening to this, think of this. I'm going to tell you something, and I do not want you to think about this. Let's test the brain right now. Here's my hint right now, my coaching tip. Do not think of the following. You ready? Do not think about a donut. Don't you dare think about a donut. No donuts. Guess what?
You probably saw it. You had a visual.
You might even smelled it.
Right. You might have brought all of your senses to it. There's maybe one donut place that you truly like. It is impossible to not focus on something that you're talking about or that's in your life.
The brain hears donut, and it looks for in our file donut, brings it forward, and then you go, oh no, I'm not supposed to think of it, and you put it back. But you're bringing it forward. That's part of the problem about talking about alcohol, drugs, gambling, whatever the crisis is, whatever the behavioral challenges, the choices are. When you focus on the thing you do not want, you are still programming in your brain that thing. Mm-hmm. And Susan talks about 99% is hard.
Really hard.
100%
really easy.
Cigarettes? You want to talk about cigarettes?
Yeah. So I think people can identify with this. If you say, I am not going to smoke cigarettes anymore, they're done, except for Friday night. Friday night, I will just have 1 or 2 cigarettes just as a reward at the end of the week. Folks, that's not how the brain works. 100% is easy. 99% is hard. Your brain is wired because of things that you've done in the past. It has to be an absolute no to move forward.
Okay, what do we got next here? Can you share a story about your biggest challenge during your recovery? Oh, I got it. I'd love this one. Yeah. Can you share? Here's my biggest challenge was friends. And some of my university buddies, I call them brothers. I love them like brothers, but some of them I can't hang out with just because the lifestyle is different now, and that's a big thing for me. And yet, some of them may view that as I've turned my back on them. I don't know, but haven't. I love the dickens out of all of them.
Yeah, you caught flack. There was one family in particular.
But that's not my deal. The decision for me is for me to move forward in my life. It is not a decision about not loving somebody else or caring about somebody
And
else.
it's not disrespectful.
No.
It is that you put your mask on first.
Oh, I like that. The airplane mask, the
Yeah.
oxygen mask falls. What are you going to do? Put your mask on first. So, and this comes up over and over and over, is that they're my brothers. They're my sisters. They count on me. Be careful, because if somebody's hanging on a cliff and you reach down to get them and you try to pull them up, more than likely they're going to pull you down. And that comes emotionally as well as physically over a cliff. So be careful of that, versus you take care of yourself. And if they come and join you, great. And if not, that's just as equal. That's fine.
And that is not selfish. Putting yourself
my
first
God.
is self-care.
No.
It's at the end of your life, you are going to be faced with having to look back at the journey, and you deserve to live a life that you want to live.
A life of richness. So I bring people into my life who add value and have similar values, personal values, as I do and Susan does. All right, that's for me. That's the biggest one. Anyway, addiction being a brain thing, which is on our book. Somebody's been reading the book, Susan. Makes sense. I've always believed that, but it ain't.
But ain't it because of genetics
Ah,
parents? Oh, great question. Thank you. Let me lean into this one.
So you got excited over that. See, you're going good.
So the short answer is no. We are not genetically predisposed to addiction. Pardon me. Any more than you are genetically predispositioned to be a quarterback football player. So, and there's so many documentaries and so many twin studies, identical twins in a different environment. Genes are the gun, your lifestyle and your choices pull the trigger. So for anything in your life, you may be, our genes actually have very little influence. Lifestyle, and as Dave was saying before, it's the power of choice, how you choose to live your life and how your brain is functioning overrides any gene that you have, other than height, eye color, things like that, right? You're not
but there is a thought that addictions is a genetic thing. I'm predisposed because of my genes. That's not true. Let's get that very, very clear.
Right.
Now, alcohol and drug, the propensity or the percentage of people who repeat that, who have been raised in that, is higher than not. Well, that's not because of genes.
Right.
That's because of trauma that has impacted the brain.
Right.
And they've learned how to deal. When I'm angry, I go get high, or I use, or I punch a wall. And they've learned that. There are other people who have lived in the same environment who have learned not to use alcohol, drugs, or punch a wall.
Right.
And so they take the same experience and go, I am not going to do that. And they go another way. So yes, there is a greater propensity or percentage of people
in your environment.
Right.
From your environment.
From your environment. But that's a trauma-based reason, not a genetic-based reason.
Right.
And it impacts the brain. Then the brain seeks a solution, a short-term solution, which is a substance or a behavior.
Yeah. Actualized recovery in 12 steps seem quite different. What are the biggest differences?
Well, we've talked about it the whole time. I mean, I'll tell you in 2 words: brain first.
Brain first.
Is that we come from a neuroscience place first, not only, but first. And when you understand that brain drives behavior,
brain function
drives behavior.
It's like your liver function or your heart function, or any other part of the body. If it's not functioning well, then you need to address that first before you can do anything.
So this is an innovative approach with actualized recovery. This is not bashing anything else. This is an innovative approach, adopting the understanding, the neuroplasticity and Hebb's law, which I can get into later, with the brain, that the brain drives behavior and choices, and that what you have today you can change. Meaning, if you change your brain, you can change your choices and behavior in a good way. So with that done, we're on our 3rd and final commercial break. Nate, take us in, baby.
Discover the brain-first approach to recovery with Emergo Academy and join our recovery club. Surround yourself with a supportive community free of guilt and shame and gain access to coaches and recovery experts with lived experience. Dave and Susan Kenney, co-founders of Emergo Academy, have developed these methodologies over the last 15 years. And as a member of the Recovery Club, you get exclusive access and resources to achieve your recovery goals and relieve the suffering. Stay up to date with live group meetings, Emergo TV updates, and 24/7 access to the private Recovery Club. Visit emergoacademy.com and join the Recovery Club today.
Okay, welcome
And
back.
we're back.
So if you're watching live or if you're watching this recording and any of this makes sense, smash the button below, join us, because then every week when you go live, we go live every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. What's that? That's 4 p.m. in Pacific. But anytime we go live, you're going to get a notice and all that. So smash the button, subscribe to whatever platform we're on right now. And Nate, we're going a little different direction. We got an email this week. We're going to address the email. And because there seems to be a lot of people asking a lot of similar questions. So, and I like that Nate put up in the recovery coach inbox. So what's the difference? This is one of the, because there are like 5 or 6 questions in this email.
They're all very similar.
So what's the difference? Why don't you jump on this? What's the difference
What's
between?
the difference between a recovery coach or a life coach? First thing, it's in demand because there's a crisis. There's a reason why people have to make a decision. A decision has to be made quickly. They're at a crossroads and there has to be an action taken. So that's number one. A recovery coach is somebody who works well in a little bit of a heated situation. They can stay very calm. They can ask great questions. They just stay neutral, where a life coach is there's not as great a sense of urgency for a life coach.
And from a business point of view, being from a coach's point of view, when you solve a problem and you help a family with a problem, you are in much greater need. So what we're talking about, I had a call this week about this exact subject. This question could have been asked word for word, that a recovery coach, the result of being a recovery coach, meaning you could help a family come back together. You can help a father or a mother create greater relationships, or even create a relationship with children that have fallen apart. You can help somebody save a business or create a business.
So increasing resources. So often when people are in crisis and are in need of a recovery coach, they've depleted a lot of resources. They don't know where to turn. Relationships have been burned.
So I don't know a family that hasn't been touched by this. And sometimes the family member who is struggling refuses the help. And yet, because this is a family issue, a recovery coach can help the family. So one of our coaches actually last week announced she's launching into only family coaching.
Two.
That's right. We had 2 of them in family coaching to help the families understand the difference between a hand up, or what is it?
A hand out.
Or a hand out. And that's the difference in recovery coaching for a family, is understanding the difference of what a handout does. A handout's like giving them an anchor, and a hand up is like helping them set sail.
It's not solving any problems. It's not moving forward. You're just putting a Band-Aid solution on it, but it's not solving anything.
You also get to charge more because you are solving an urgent crisis situation. So that's number one most in-demand coaching niche in the world right now are proven certified coaches in recovery and crisis.
And particularly when the angle is brain, right? You bring something that is so unique and so different that there's so many families that feel shame. They blame themselves. They're all stuck. When one family member is struggling, everybody in the family is feeling that, right? Nobody can really experience joy. Family get-togethers are usually tainted
There you go.
So but you're not the hero in this. It's when you're coaching as a recovery coach, this is about you guiding a person or a family from where they are now to where they want to be. This is not about you. You are not the hero in this sequence. They are the hero. They are the creator. You have this incredible skill set.
Well, take of a professional coach. You don't step on the playing surface and do it for them. Right. You guide, you lead, you teach, you mentor, and you make them, and they are the hero in their own journey. You look at the film footage. That's it. You see what isn't working. You ask questions, but ultimately it's up to the player. Right? Well, the player has to make the decision. As a coach, you want to create winnable games, which is each week some kind of winnable steps, which we get into in our certification as a recovery coach.
I have a question for you.
No, we got other questions, but go ahead.
Do you need to have personal experience with addictions to be a recovery coach?
That's one of our coaches. The answer is no. And we'll get into that in a minute. Wayne Gretzky, greatest hockey player in the history of the world, history of hockey, was not a great coach. You don't have to have lived experience to be a great coach. It may help and it may hinder. So does a recovery coach only work with drugs? Heck no. You get I was just working with somebody, one of our coaches who's creating a how do I call it, a wellness, well-being, and he wants to focus on people who are obese, who have eating and weight challenges and feel dark and lost and depressed and just are crushed by this. And a lot of shame in this world, is like there is in addictions. There's a lot of quiet, dark shame, and they stay in the shadows. And he wants to help those people get their lives back and recover and right there and live their comeback story. So no, this is about behaviors as much as it is. And sometimes they're called soft addictions. So soft addictions, hard addictions, behaviors, anything that's holding you back. And here's the thing, if you have one of these things and you want help to move forward,
to break patterns, to be free. I love what you said before. It's about freedom.
It is.
Having people that are feeling like they're trapped, they're drifting, and you're able to guide them.
Drifting is a great word. In pain, here's one of the things we talk about: relieving the suffering, the agony of the suffering. Yeah. And if you are a heart-centered person and want to help relieve suffering, then a crisis and recovery coach is a phenomenal opportunity for you.
Yeah.
I am in recovery, and I have a feeling that being a recovery coach, helping others, will help me in my recovery. My first answer would be, heck yeah, but I have a but. Here's my but. If you are doing this to stay in recovery, the answer is no, because then you're not moving forward in your own recovery. So
you haven't owned it yet.
You haven't owned it yet, and it's a facade that really for your recovery. This is a lived thing. This is your experience where you are bookending your days. You have courageously changed friendships and relationships in your life. Your lifestyle has changed. You're living a brain healthy life.
You're ready to learn about all of those things and ready to embrace it. And you just don't know how to get there, but you've already had some traction.
And yet, will it help you? Heck yeah, it will. And your recovery will strengthen every month and every year while working with people. You will learn from your clients, and you'll learn about yourself.
And your colleagues.
Yeah, I learn about myself as I coach all the time. So yes, would be the short answer.
And it's interesting, the people that are attracted to you as clients moving forward tend to have, they will talk about things that you've gone through or that you have experience with. And those are feelings, right? It's not that you're ever going to have exactly the same experience. It's that you can practice compassion and empathy, and you're able to guide people to the freedom that they want.
I like that. Do I have to have qualifications or education to join? No. You could join we have an 8-week certification program to become an internationally certified crisis and recovery coach. Here's the qualifications that you need. You have to be an adult, so 18 years and over. There has to be a desire, a true desire, which I would assume everybody's going to have, to help others, not take, to help others.
Right.
And then one of the other things is leave what you have learned behind. Now, that's not a qualification, but man, if you leave the stuff, well, that you've learned in AA or therapy or wherever, what books you've read.
Interventions. If you've watched interventions on TV, that is not what happens in a real intervention.
Well, certainly not in a healthy one. In a healthy intervention. By the way, the word intervention means to intervene. That's all. It doesn't mean to create a chaotic, beautiful, sexy, sizzling story on TV. This is about compassion and empathy. Well, right. More empathy than compassion even with people. So the qualifications, no, we have worked with medical doctors. We've trained medical doctors. We've trained clinical psychologists. We've trained reverends, ex-military, military fitness people. We've trained stay-at-home
nutritionists,
moms. We've trained addiction counselors. We've trained RNs. But you don't have to have those. You can be. I don't care if you haven't even graduated high school. If you come with a heart and you're open, we can help you.
Mm-hmm. And who knows where it's going to take you in your life?
Yeah, baby. How long does it take before you get certified?
And how?
Well, that's
a good question. So 8 weeks, and our next course starts May 15th.
No, May 16th, excuse me. May 16th.
Thursday, whatever the Thursday is. So we have...
Hold it. If you're watching this later, we run 4 of these a year, so reach out to us. So if whatever, we run them all the time. We have them, and we have recovery groups too. Go ahead.
So 8 weeks, and the requirement is 2 live classes, 90 minutes each, but they are recorded. So many people have a day job.
A week.
And they're able to watch the recordings. We have a very interactive Facebook group. We have a lot of touch points. So there's not a lot of homework. We do a lot of the work during class time or
and it's done live. Yeah. I can't stand learning on Zoom with recordings, although some people have to pick up a class or two.
But you're going to do
teach live.
Yeah, you're going to stay with the group.
And here's the neat thing. We've had people watch the Tuesday class and then send in a question because they can't make, like they're traveling. So they watch Tuesday's class, send in a question for Thursday. We'll answer that. Like, could you explain this theory a little bit more? Or how do I do this a little bit more? How does empathy and compassion, why are those different and what happens here? So we'll explain all of that. That's the power of us being live. It is not canned and produced and just shot to your email. Come and join us 8 weeks. By the way, we have a master class coming on. So if you want to know specifically about that, and they're on all the time throughout the year, come to emergoacademy.com, sign up for the next master class.
Or reach out to us. Send us an email.
Yeah, we do that. We kind of like that.
If you're interested, I love chatting to people that think that this could be a career.
Okay, Nate, let's sneak in one. We got about 60 seconds here. Is there enjoyed a crisis from recovery? I mean, is there year-round support? The answer is yes.
Yes. We love staying connected to people like Velcro if they wish.
We have something called the Coaches Club for people who join our coaches certification program or are graduates of that. Yeah. Very affordable, and that's an ongoing support system for the year. Yeah. And that was one of my calls today with one of our coach graduates.
And it's so nice to see each new class get added.
Guess what? We got to go.
All right.
And next week, when you see us, we'll be back. We will be back in our home office.
Back in Calgary.
And rocking and rolling. So smash the button. Even if you're watching the recording, subscribe, smash, join us. Tell your friends, share. Anything recovery. Join us next Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern. Every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern. And submit your questions live or send them in by email. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks, everybody. Bye for now.
Discover the brain-first approach to recovery with Emergo Academy and join our recovery club. Surround yourself with a supportive community free of guilt and shame, and gain access to coaches and recovery experts with lived experience. Dave and Susan Kenney, co-founders of Emergo Academy, have developed these methodologies over the last 15 years. And as a member of the Recovery Club, you get exclusive access and resources to achieve your recovery goals and relieve the suffering. Stay up to date with live group meetings, Emergo TV updates, and 24/7 access to the private Recovery Club. Visit emergoacademy.com and join the Recovery Club today.